I think that one of the first things that people looking to build in Bubble do, I remember me doing this personally, was just go on YouTube or go on Google and just start wondering, okay, what is Bubble? What is this whole Bubble thing about? What can you actually build with Bubble? How did your Bubble journey start?
Well, it started with a need, with a frustration, like most good stories. We had a great customer who wanted to build something really ambitious and didn't know how to do it. And we had a clear vision for what the problem was that we wanted to solve. But every time we tried to outline a traditional development solution,
it would cost.
It was prohibitive. It just wouldn't work.
It was just going to cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, and especially because at that time, especially in the Web3 space, that just required immense resources that nobody had, or at least nobody that wasn't VC funded
right.
had. And so that's how we started looking for other ways of getting to the solution. And we stumbled across Bubble, and it's been a few years now, quite a few, and we're really happy with the decision.
So just to set the record straight, Bubble is what traditionally has been known as a web application builder, right? A platform where you can build web applications. It's now starting to change a lot because you not only can just build web applications, you can build more things.
Yeah, you can. But I think the fundamental thing is you don't have to be a coder. Okay, and
right.
and it's, whether or not you like the word no code or you don't like the word no code, or you want to, whatever you want to call it, it is a visual way of building a software without having to understand all the plumbing issues. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, plumbing is a big deal in most development projects. I mean, there's all sorts of platforms and tech stacks and different frameworks and all of that you have to choose, and then you have to maintain, and you have to make sure they keep working together. And Bubble, fortunately, just abstracts that all away from you. And all you have to do is concentrate on solving the problem.
So again, it's particularly meant for people that are not familiarized with program, or that, there's a lot of programmers building in Bubble that just got tired of programming because it takes time, it takes resources.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is you can build just about anything you want to build nowadays in Bubble. I mean, you probably wouldn't set out to build a heavily intensive graphics game.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably not the where you would go.
But yeah.
But anything that, any sort of a business application, any sort of a data-driven application where you want to input data and process data and solve problems, in a business sort of way, you can build on Bubble, and it's democratized the whole idea of building. Anybody can now.
Now that you're talking about democratizing the whole building experience, like you said, now it's just about anyone that can come in and build a web application or an app, or build a solution to problems that people may be facing out there without having to go through 5 or 6 years of school, because you need to learn Python, or you got to learn JavaScript, or you got to learn all these different languages. Now you just need to, you still got to know, things like designing databases. Like you're still in charge of doing some of the heavy lifting.
So when we say democratizing, we don't mean that it's just free for everyone. I mean, there is a learning curve. No code does not mean no work.
We like that sentence. We've actually sat down with many people that have this idea that, these guys don't code, they must be cheap. Well, not quite. I mean, no code does not mean no work.
It means that you don't have to worry about the intricacies of the plumbing of building a traditional application. But you still need to understand how you want to structure your solution so that it will be scalable and sustainable, and there is a learning curve. Let's not say
I
there
actually
isn't.
want to put a little bit of emphasis on that. I mean, the learning curve to building something good that can scale and that can that many users can use in Bubble, it's steep. Well, it is steep.
It's steep, but it's shallow compared to traditional software development.
But it's not WordPress.
No. Well, you might argue that WordPress...
There is a learning curve to learning how to use WordPress, for example. Like, what is hosting? And what? Wait, I need to learn about what are plugins? How does that... Sure, but you don't have to learn how to design databases, for example, in WordPress.
Well, you don't have to, and the other part is you can't...
You can't build anything as robust.
Right. So, I mean, you end up hacking stuff together. And I guess the thought here is that Bubble provides a visual understandable way of building applications without having to, get into the muck of traditional software development.
I want to touch on competitors, because it is true that Bubble isn't the only no-code web app builder out there these days. There's many of them. So what would you say makes Bubble the go-to web app builder for people that don't want to program? Why are we using Bubble and not something else?
Well, like everything, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of really great solutions out there for a lot of different use cases, and Bubble just happens to be the world's leading no-code platform. So you know that you're at least betting your future on the undeniable market leader, which gives you a lot of confidence that there is. And I say this with a grain of salt, because no technology is without some risk that it might explode or go away or get bought by somebody who just doesn't like it and they just bought it to close it down. I mean, these things happen in this industry.
We actually just saw it in the WordPress space not too long ago, where websites being hosted by WP Engine got shut down because the guy running Automatic got pissed off at them. Yeah. What do you do now?
Right. Well, and there were alternatives. And
sure.
You rush and you find a solution. But with Bubble, I'm confident that there's a long future ahead. They're actively building the platform. They're actively making it better. It's evolving, and it is also proven itself to be stable. To be if you do it right, you can build a robust application that can have hundreds of thousands or millions of users, and you can do it fast.
So who would you say Bubble is for?
Bubble is for the founder of a solution that wants to bring to market something quick, but without having to learn
or spend
all of the resources that are necessary by doing a traditional software development. I mean, developers, infrastructure, technology stacks, all of that complicated stuff, you can forget about it. You can know that your application that's all been taken care of for you. And you can roll up your sleeves, get to work, and you can have something on the market in days.
Is there anyone that you would say Bubble is not for?
Bubble isn't for somebody who thinks that they're going to just look at a screen, say, I want XYZ, snap their fingers, and it's going to be done. And unfortunately, there are a lot of those out there right now. Okay, that's something that's kind of a, and it is the elephant in the room in a lot of these conversations recently is, what about, and I'm sure you'll ask me the question a little bit.
Yeah.
The truth is that if you're just looking for a magical, boom, and it's done thing, you're not going to find it in Bubble.
You're going to have to roll up your sleeves.
You're going to have to roll up your sleeves. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to take some time. And you're going to probably not have the optimal solution your first try, unless you've got somebody really smart by your side, like ratio.dev.
Is there something about Bubble that you would say, man, this particular key feature is just so special about Bubble that nothing out there comes close to what Bubble can do?
That's a tough question. I think that personally, my favorite part of Bubble is the API connector. I think that Bubble is really good at connecting stuff. And
it's important.
That is really...
It is really important. Yeah. Being able to connect your app to other stuff out there, it really expands the capabilities of your application.
Yeah. So, and it's not... you need to understand how to do it a little bit, but you can once you catch on, you can make a Bubble application talk to just about anybody in the world, any application out there, and do some pretty spectacular stuff.
What about, I'm going to ask you the opposite side of the spectrum. Is there something in Bubble that you would just say, it's just not that, it's not that good at doing that particular thing?
Okay, so Bubble isn't great, at least for now, at saying modify 3 million records in a database in the next 5 seconds. It doesn't do that well. And hey, they're working on it. And the Bubble team out there, hey, it's gotten better, and they keep promising that it's going to get better. But
and I'm sure it will.
And I'm sure it will. But it isn't there yet. Some really data-intense applications that have to manipulate large sets of data on the fly. you might have to think about the architecture. And that doesn't mean you can't build them in Bubble, but you may have to offload parts of that work off of Bubble and then make Bubble talk to those.
There are some particular things about design in Bubble that I would say it's not on par compared to what you can do on other platforms. Like Bubble is not Webflow. Like you can't do certain animations or certain parallax effects.
I've seen a lot of that done. You can.
It's not great.
It's not great.
It's not a great experience for the designer.
No, and it is probably complicated to maintain.
And not just maintain. Sometimes it even harms, for example, page speeds, or it harms your core web vitals because your layout is all messed up, or stuff like that.
But I mean, you can. That's maybe a handicap of the platform, but it's also maybe a handicap of the person that wants to do something super flashy.
That is honestly not even necessary.
Right.
Right. I agree. So how long would you say it takes to build just a simple application in Bubble?
Well, I mean, a simple application you could probably get out in a couple of days if you want.
Simple is kind of abstract.
Yeah.
Let's actually give people a real example. Like if you want to build like an e-commerce store.
Depending on where you start from, if you just start from scratch, it'll take you a couple of weeks, 3 weeks maybe to get it done. I think if you can have a production-ready app out the door in somewhere around a month's time, I think it's pretty good.
That's good.
And I don't think I know that that's doable with Bubble, and it obviously will depend a bit on the complexity of what you're trying to build.
Okay, so let's just assume that my grandma Connie says, hey, I have a bakery shop. I want to start selling my goodies online. How long, or what kind of skills should Grandma Connie have, or should she try to look for if she wants to get started with Bubble?
Well, she's got a grandson that could help with that. Look, if you're just starting out to build an e-com store, you probably don't need to build it on Bubble from scratch. Okay, you either start with a framework like one of ours, or maybe just go to Shopify.
Or you go to Shopify, you go to WooCommerce or Shopify, one of these.
Yeah, and you're probably going to be okay until you get to the point where you need complexity. Bubble is great for building applications, and obviously it's good for building websites. But it's kind of overkill if all you're building is a website.
I was going to suggest a comparison, which is that if you want to sell baked goodies, then you don't really need to be in Bubble. You can just use Shopify or use WooCommerce. But if you want to build Amazon, where other people can sell their goodies, now we start talking.
Yeah, or if you want to make your cupcakes customizable.
Customizable. If you or let's just say that you open up a WooCommerce store and you get freaking tired of paying for add-ons, and there may not even exist add-ons for the application that you're trying to
or they don't
build.
work together,
or they don't work together, and it's clunky. It's clunky.
Yeah.
Now we start talking about Bubble.
Now you can start saying, maybe it makes sense to build something that's mine.
Now that we're talking about examples, is there a particular kind of application or a project that you think is particularly best suited for Bubble? Or just about anything can work?
If you are in the business world and you have deep insight into your marketplace and you know of problems that your customers or your competitors don't solve well, or that are just, those kind of itchy problems that you say, I could solve this with an application, but I don't know how to do it. That's when you should grab the phone and call us, because that is the perfect use case for Bubble. When you've got a problem that there's demand for it, and you also don't see it's not just setting up a Shopify store.
So you brought up the idea of a Bubble application being able to scale. This is something that a lot of people, especially programmers, like to bring up. Oh, but you can't scale a Bubble application. Okay, let's get serious here and let's try to be as transparent as we possibly can. How big can a Bubble application scale?
I mean, if you want to make it scale and you're willing to put in the effort to build it right, I don't think that you're likely to hit. Building Facebook might be too ambitious, but you could probably build something awfully close and still have millions of users.
And to me, this conversation in and of itself is so freaking stupid, because let's just face it, most people that are thinking about starting a bubble application worry about the fact that, oh my God, is my app going to be able to scale? When the truth is, most bubble applications fail. And it's beautiful to be able to build something without spending gazillions amounts of dollars trying to see if you can actually get your idea to work in the first place.
And proving yourself in the marketplace by solving the problem and getting people to pay you for the solution is immensely more valuable than thinking about what's going to happen 10 years down the road when I have 1 million users. Look, if you get to 100,000, if you get to 500,000, and then you start worrying about scaling,
that might be a good point.
That's the time to do it.
Right.
Because that means you've made it.
You've made it, and you have a proven concept that's going to work.
And let's face it, I think you can build your bubble application to scale way beyond there. But even if you couldn't,
you're going to have resources.
You're going to have resources by that point to sit down and say, how do I want to make the next phase of this work?
Man, I read stuff on Twitter that just pisses me off because this conversation, I find it ridiculous. It's like, man, you're going to be like, if that is a good problem to have if you're worrying about scalability.
And let's face it, if you can sit down with a $10,000, $20,000 investment and build something that you can launch into the market that solves a problem and that people are willing to pay you for, and you can do that in a month, a little bit more.
Isn't that crazy?
That is impressive. That is what democratizing building really is.
I love the 21st century, man.
Yeah, because let's face it, I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that wasn't doable. You just couldn't do it.
So we've talked about SEO here in the past. I want to talk about performance really quick because this is something that especially gets programmers riled about. How goodly or how poorly does a bubble app perform? Can bubble applications that are robust be fast?
Of course. Yeah.
Why are some bubble applications slow?
Almost always because the person who built them is kind of not great at what they're doing. I mean, like anything, you have to know what you're doing. So it almost always has to do with a poorly designed database, too many bloated plugins installed, starting with some template that was never very well designed in the first place, and then clumping together a bunch of kind of Frankenstein pieces without actually thinking about how to make them work coherently from the beginning. That's sadly what I see when I talk to a lot of bubblers that have kind of just jumped in the swimming pool and they've launched they rolled up their sleeves, they did whatever the best they could, and usually the first time you do something, the best you can isn't all that great. So I would say talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Learn, get better.
Yes.
And then you go back and you start looking at all of the checklists that we have for our customers, all of the stuff that you probably didn't know that you should have done and you didn't do, and you start fixing it.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, I want to talk about costs because we brought up the idea that, hey, with Bubble, you don't actually have to spend $100K to build your MVP and launch it out in the market because you've had to hire 10 programmers to build your application. What is the real cost of building in Bubble?
Well, I mean, like we said, there's still work to be done. So you have to think about, even though one good Bubble developer can probably do the work of 5 or 6 traditional software developers, that still means that you're going to need to pay him for a couple of months probably.
Of course.
And you may actually go around in circles a few times finding the right fit. I mean, unfortunately, that happens too. But it's an order of magnitude less. So if you're thinking hundreds of K in traditional software development, well, maybe now you're thinking tens of Ks.
What about, let's just say that I'm starting out my Bubble journey today and I want to build a finance track application, for example. It's just Tony. It's Tony handling everything. When do I start paying? How much is it going to cost me? Like, I really want to set the record straight for someone that might be thinking about starting with Bubble, but doesn't really know how much money he's looking to spend.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be doing all of the work,
right,
then I mean, you're going to start paying Bubble when you go into production, when you have a live app, and you're going to be paying $30 a month or something. So right. I mean, come on, that's not, if you can't afford that, then
and that covers hosting.
Yeah, and all of the development platform and all of the technology. So it's
actually cheaper than most.
Yeah,
like you're going to spend a whole lot more money like building it in WordPress, for example.
Yeah, you are. and it's not going to be able to do half as much.
It's also easier to get started in WordPress.
But
again, we go back to
you're going to probably fail that first one, so
Right.
you're not going to get it right.
Right.
And that means that that experience is education,
Right.
Get it as fast as you can and keep going. Do it again. Get better.
That makes sense. Well, I think this is a good. We should have probably started our conversations with this one, because this one kind of like lays the foundation of what Bubble is and why we picked Bubble and the kinds of things that people can do with Bubble.
And let me just kind of comment that I was in a top secret Bubble meeting not long ago, and I can't reveal what they said because it's still top secret. But one of the things that obviously people are asking about is, oh, but isn't Bubble obsolete now that you have AI that can just code for you? And you know, the honest to God truth is that AI has gotten pretty good at kind of spitting out a prototype of whatever you want. So you can kind of say, well, I want X, Y, Z, and it will kind of spit out a prototype that's maybe 50% there or 60% there. But let me tell you something. The remaining 30, 40% is going to be a nightmare for you. Because every time you tell it to fix a bug, it's going to create
new bugs. Yeah.
And you don't understand what's going on.
Because you don't know how to program.
Right. And so you're asking for trouble. Whereas you're still going to have mistakes in your Bubble application. You're still going to have bugs, but they're not going to be technology bugs. They're going to be bugs because you told it to do something that it shouldn't be doing, or you didn't quite understand how Bubble works and you thought it was doing something that it's not. And those are normal kinds of mistakes, but they're a lot quicker to find, and you never get caught in that downhill spiral of, now where do I go? Now do I need to hire a programmer to figure out the bug that the cursor or whatever bolt,
and you're probably
going
to end up paying him just to rebuild the damn thing because you've created a monster that you don't understand,
and nobody understands.
You're back on in step one.
And maybe 2 years from now we're having a different conversation. But I'll tell you what, by then you'll be doing even more in Bubble than you could be doing with what those tools are doing right now.
I think that was a great conclusion. Really good conclusion. I do want to mention, I don't know if we brought this up, but you don't only, Bubble is not just meant to be a builder of web applications. You can actually do mobile applications now, and that's not secret anymore. We've actually tested it out. It looks pretty cool.
And you can just deploy directly to the app stores, which is pretty nice. Pretty impressive. And they are native applications that, and one of the cool things is they actually share the same backend as your web application. So your database is the same, your backend workflows, all of your API integrations, all of that, you don't have to touch.
You don't have to.
And they can live together.
You don't have to be building two apps separately.
Exactly.
It's like one app.
They all work together.
Really cool. Well, hopefully people found this conversation interesting. If they're thinking about, hey, should I give Bubble a try? Should I look for something else? Hopefully we brought some clarity.
Definitely.
And if you need help, or if you need just to sit down and have a conversation with us because you still have questions that maybe we didn't answer, there's the comment section that we'll be happy to reply to any questions that people have. But if you really want to sit down and develop a plan of what you want to build, and perhaps you want to have us help you develop that plan, just go to ratio.dev and we will be more than happy to help you out.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, man. Let's do another one next week. I'm gonna keep pushing you to do more and more until you tell me to stop.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, thanks, man.
Bye.